Will Europe go back to buying gas directly from Russia? Is there any evidence supporting the idea that Russia could make a comeback? Just scan this QR code right here, or if you want to support the Try Money Monster channel, simply hit the subscribe button. That's more than enough. For those of you who've already subscribed, thank you so much. We love you. No need to hit it again. But for anyone who hasn't yet, just one click is enough. That's all it takes. Thank you. What I'm truly curious to understand is whether Europe will eventually go back to buying inexpensive oil and affordable natural gas directly from Russia again, because having access to cheap energy has been a fundamental and essential driving force that's driven Europe's economic prosperity for many decades. And it's also a vitally important consideration to keep in mind if Europe ever gets access to that cheap energy again. They could revitalize their entire economy quickly and efficiently. Because for decades, what made Europe so strong in industry and provided a significant competitive edge in the global market was this specific advantage, the availability of low-cost energy. And that cheap energy came directly from Russia. Just take a closer look at this chart. 74% of the gas that Europe buys came from Russia almost all the time, until Russia invaded Ukraine about 3 years ago. That's when the amount of gas Europe bought from Russia dropped from 74% down to just 18%. Now, you might think, well, it's good that Europe isn't buying gas from Russia anymore. That way, they're not under the Kremlin's bargaining power. You could look at it that way. But on the other hand, don't forget that when Europe stopped getting cheap oil from Russia, the money was hit hard. And that's why we really need to take a close look at this topic. Ever since Donald Trump campaigned for the presidency and won, he's always said he would bring the Russia-Ukraine war to an end. And one of the peace negotiation points Trump discussed with Russia was reopening the Russia-Europe gas pipeline, allowing Russia to sell energy directly to Europe again. But this issue is complicated and has its own internal contradictions, which is why today, I'm going to break it down for you, whether it's actually possible for Russia to go back to selling energy directly to Europe, or if it's just not going to happen. Let's start with why it's unlikely. There are a few main reasons why it's not likely that Russia will be able to sell energy to Europe again. There are 3 main points. The first is, Europe still sees Russia as an enemy, as a threat to the European Union. So Europe believes that if they go back to buying gas from Russia, it would give Russia an advantage, a bargaining chip to threaten Europe whenever they want. Like, if you buy gas from Russia, then Russia would have the power to say, I can cut off your gas supply anytime I want. That's why Europe sees it this way. Going back to buying gas from Russia is a threat to the European Union. Secondly, Europe has been sanctioning Russian energy for 3 years now, right? So they've worked really hard to find alternative energy sources from elsewhere, and they've already found them. If they suddenly have to go back to buying from Russia, it would feel like a waste, and all that effort would be for nothing. Plus, Europe has already set agreements and targets that even though today they haven't completely cut off energy from, it's a shame, not completely cut off yet, but they plan to be by 2027 by increasing energy efficiency and using more renewable energy within the region. Right now, Europe's energy consumption is on the rise, partly because of the cold winters, industrial needs, and population growth. But there are forecasts that Europe's energy demand will actually decrease by 2030. Plus, the European Union has other energy sources as well, which are already sufficient for use in Europe. And the third point, this one really stings quite a bit, because the third point is that Donald Trump has just recently announced, right, that he wants the United States to be a global leader in LNG production. So the primary objective and the main thing Trump wants from launching this project is customers. To put it quite plainly and simply, Donald Trump wants customers. He wants Europe to buy LNG from the United States. That's it. Trump told Europe directly, hey, you have to buy LNG from the United States, or else He really did threaten to raise tariffs. And Europe, has always had this love-hate relationship with the United States. So when they heard Trump say that, they went ahead and made agreements to purchase LNG from the US. And they've already built terminals to import LNG from America too. That's how much they want to keep things good. Even if US LNG is more expensive, it doesn't matter to them. Europe basically said, even if it's expensive, we're willing to pay because we love them. But it doesn't look good. It's all negative. Hold on a second. There are actually some reports about Europe importing LNG from the United States. There have been some academic studies suggesting that this could happen. For example, Aurora Energy Research released a report saying that if Europe imports LNG from the US, it could lower gas prices in the European Union by up to 9% over the next 10 years. Let's get back to that. Back to the topic of peace negotiations, if we look at Donald Trump, right? We can see that he really made a serious and seemingly sincere effort to end the war and bring about peace in the world. The Russia-Ukraine war really needs to end already because the United States says it's just too costly. But if we look at it from a trade perspective, specifically about selling LNG, and think about it in simple terms, not making it complicated, if Donald Trump were to say he allows Russia to open a direct pipeline and actually sell gas directly to Europe, then Russia would become a major competitor to the United States in the LNG market in the European Union. Would that really be okay? And coming back to the point that Europe thinks if they go back to buying gas directly from Russia, it would become a threat to the security of the European Union, President Vladimir Putin posted on social media talking about the relationship between Russia and Europe as well. President Vladimir Putin said this: Russia has never been an enemy of Europe. We don't want any resources or wealth from Europe at all. Honestly, Russia is already rich in resources, and we've never wanted your land either. Just look at the map. Russia's territory is already enormous, so why would we want your land? And more importantly, what would we even do with Europe? Why do you keep constantly imagining that Russia is an enemy of Europe? What actual harm or damage have we ever done to you? And let me ask you, wasn't it us who sold you vital energy resources at such cheap prices, significantly cheaper than the so-called friendly countries selling to you now? To sum it up, if we are being completely honest, Russia is not the enemy of the European people. The real enemy of the European people it's your own leaders. Putin posted this, not me, okay? Now, let's get back to whether it's possible for Russia to resume selling gas directly to Europe. In this part, we're going to talk about the likelihood of that happening. When it comes to the chances, there are 3 reasons why Russia might be able to return. The first reason is, some people think that if Europe goes back to buying gas from Russia, it would undermine the security of the European Union. But there are others who believe that if Europe resumes buying oil from Russia, it could actually guarantee a more lasting and sustainable peace. That's because Russia would have to consider that being able to sell gas to Europe again is worth hundreds of billions of dollars a year that Europe would pay directly to Russia. Wouldn't Russia want to keep that income? This is exactly what would help to guarantee long-lasting peace. The second point is that in Europe, there are now people beginning to realize, hey, we're sanctioning Russia. Why are we even sanctioning them? When you really think about it, the reason we imposed sanctions and stopped buying energy from Russia was because we intended to cripple Russia's economy, right? So that Russia would run out of money, and once they had no money, they'd have to withdraw and lose, and that would be the end of it, right? But not only did Russia's economy not collapse, Russia still has plenty of money, because after they couldn't sell energy to Europe, they just turned to selling to Asia instead. They're selling to China and India now. At this point, Russia's income from oil sales is the same as it was before the war started. The ones who are hurting, the ones who are losing, the ones who are getting poorer are actually in Europe. So now European citizens are starting to wonder, why did we sanction Russia and stop buying energy from them? Wasn't it to destroy their economy? But it turns out their economy isn't collapsing. It's just ours that is. So if what we're doing isn't helping out, should we just stop? Number 3 is Europe. Even though they loudly announced their vision to boycott and stop buying energy from Russia, Europe has never truly cut Russia off. Even though Europe declared they would boycott and not buy energy from Russia, in the end, they still have to buy energy from Russia anyway, just in a different way. Indirectly, because after Europe stopped buying energy from Russia, Russia just redirected their pipelines to sell directly to Asia instead, 47% to China, 37% to India. And what ends up happening is that the gas Russia sends to Asia is exactly what Europe ends up having to buy back, but through an indirect route and at a higher price. So now Europe has to really weigh its options. What are they going to do about Russian energy? Should they keep it or cut it off? Because this is a big deal. The economy, finances, people's livelihoods, and even Europe's major industries have all been turned upside down since they lost access to cheap energy from Russia. The cost of energy has skyrocketed, electricity bills have gone up, and are now so volatile that it's almost impossible to manage or predict them. This has made it so Europe can't control its production costs, causing it to lose its price advantage in the global market. As a result, industrial factories, a huge number of factories have gradually left Europe, as I mentioned in this clip. Factories are abandoning German soil. Just think about it. Some of them have been open for 70, 80, even 100 years, and now they have to shut down. How many people have been laid off? How many employees have lost their jobs? Tens of thousands are unemployed. Even if there are protests, nothing changes because the company owners simply don't have the money to keep hiring. According to Bloomberg, this is one of the reasons why high-ranking officials in the European Union, especially in Hungary and Germany, have come out to urge the European Union to agree to go back to buying cheap energy from Russia in order to save the entire European industrial sector. But there's something Europe might have to accept as reality. Even if Russia really does come back to sell cheap energy to Europe, what's already happened has already happened. When Europe imposed sanctions and stopped buying energy from Russia, they went ahead and canceled deals and contracts. Those old agreements, the ones that had been in place for ages, where everyone worked together closely, they were all thrown out, even by the oldest or biggest buyers of gas. Whether it was Uniper SE from Germany or OMV AG from Austria, they've all canceled their contracts with Moscow. So now we'll have to see if, should they want to resume trading, Europe will still be able to get energy deals as good as before. All right, finally. After considering all these different points of discussion, we still can't really answer whether Russia will actually be able to go back to selling energy directly to Europe. But let's just have some fun with it. Leave a comment and let us know exactly what you think Europe will choose. Paying for much more expensive gas from their dear friends in exchange for peace, or a return to Russian gas to keep their own economy afloat.